Hey, welcome to Nerd Initiation. My name is Zana, and this is where my best friend, Jason, the nerd extraordinaire, is going to tell me all about nerddom and see if I can qualify for nerdness. I don't know. So it's going to be a fun journey. Come along with us. How you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing all right, getting my caffeine in.
I was going to say, you do seem a little energetic this morning.
I wonder why.
I'm
Don't
noticing you're a
don't
fan of energy drinks.
don't look at my shame.
What I like even more is how your straw is like color coordinated with the can. I'm sure that was intentional.
I need to make it aesthetic, Jason.
You're
It'd
doing a
be wonderful to look at.
magnificent job.
Not
I could even
sponsored.
see the lipstick smear on the top.
Why you gotta expose me like that?
Oh, because that's what I do. That's what best friends do, right?
Yeah, not sponsored. This is not a name brand.
But I will say you probably need that because from what I recall, you said you were up early today because you were excited about what we're about to do, right?
I'm so excited. This is our very
Yeah,
first
yeah.
podcast. I'm so excited.
I am excited. How long have you been interested in podcasts or podcasting?
You know what? I've been listening to podcasts so much during quarantine that I love it. I sew to podcasts. I clean to podcasts. I love listening to podcasts because it like lets me get to know like all of these people in the world that I would never have gotten to know, and they're total strangers, but I know so much about these people and it's so interesting. It's not weird. But
Well, they seem like friends, right?
yeah, it seems like you're just listening to like friends talk, and it's very like calming, and I kind of like that. But well,
Hmm.
you and I work together, and in the call center that we work at, I get a lot of
For an
people
unnamed company
for an unnamed company.
in the insurance industry.
Shh, you're letting too much out now.
Oh, what?
Nobody knows. But I get a lot of comments on my voice, and it just people ask me all the time, like, what do your voice is amazing, like, and then just one person was like, hey, do you do like radio or podcast? It's like, podcasting? I can do a podcast? That's I didn't say this to him, obviously, just this is what's going on in my head, but I'm like, that's amazing, what a great idea. And
And
then
while
like
you're thinking all this, he's like, I have a question.
yeah, yeah, I'm just like ignoring.
Are you going to do your job?
No, now I'm in podcast mode.
Oh, that's awesome.
within like
But
within like 10
that's when it
minutes
clicked for you, right? Like,
it
yeah.
just clicked, and like I just knew right away I wanted to do a podcast. I wanted to have a fun podcast that I would love to do, and the best person to do that with, my best friend Jason. I literally texted you while I was on that call saying that we should do this.
Also, best looking friend. But yes, I do remember getting that message from you, and I was pretty excited by the idea. Podcasting for me, it's been something I think I first became aware of probably 12 or 13 years ago, like we'll say 2008-ish. I'm trying to
Wow.
think. There's a gentleman that I really enjoy. His name's Michael Bailey. Shout out, Michael. Maybe you'll see this or hear this someday. He and I have talked a few times over the years. We've emailed each other. Great guy, lives in Georgia. Um, he has a podcast about Superman called From Crisis to Crisis. And that's inside nerd baseball right there. He's referring to the period of stories in the comics between 1987 and 2006. He does a podcast, what they refer to as an comics index, where it's like they talk issue by issue, him and a partner named Jeff.
Wow.
About like this issue, this is what happened, this is what we liked about it, etc. And I think I first heard about that around that time, and I thought, boy, that sounds great. I'd like to listen to that. But I think in that point in my life, I wasn't really in a position to listen to podcasts, like time constraints, or like I'd have to, back then that was like I would listen to it on my desktop probably. Like this was before I had a smartphone, before any tablets were really available or any devices of that nature.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I going to do? Just sit here and listen? Like, I didn't have
God, how
wireless
boring.
headphones. Yeah. And it wasn't like, there wasn't a way it was portable. I mean, maybe if I got an iPod or Zune, I could have figured that out, but I wasn't really like
Man,
looking to get one of
Zoom.
those. I was like, this seems like a big investment, blah, blah, blah. So flash forward until
Zune.
yeah, remember those?
Yeah, that was a big investment.
I knew one guy who had one of those. But yeah, so flash forward about, I think, let's say 5 years. Because I do also remember back in like '08 seeing Kevin Smith was just creating his empire of podcasting. And I'm like, I'd
love
listen to
Kevin
that
Smith.
guy. Oh, me
All the
too. I
time.
would listen to him read the phone book. I love his voice. He's funny.
Seriously.
He's just a great storyteller. I've seen all of his, Evening with Kevin Smith. What am I talking about? You and I went and saw him live
We saw
in
him live.
2019. The
He was
Jay and
so
Silent
good.
Bob reboot road show. We
It
were
was
there.
so good. We were there.
Downtown Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids.
He was awesome.
Great. I met him at Disneyland one time too.
That's right. Yeah. If you
On
want to tell
Pirates
that
of the
story real
Caribbean.
quick, I know it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a brief one.
It's a brief one. Yeah. I was on Pirates of the Caribbean with my friend, and like we knew he was in the park because there's this Instagram that tells when celebrities are in the park that she follows, and she's like, "Who's Kevin Smith?" I'm like, "Bitch, let me tell you about one of the greatest humans ever," right?
You're
And
like,
then
first, we're not friends anymore because you don't know him.
you don't know Kevin Smith? What is this? But but we were in Pirates of the Caribbean and we were just going through, and at the end of the ride where there was like, the boats just kind of like get lined up because it's slower to get people on and off. But
Yeah.
all of a sudden I hear everybody in line going, "Oh my God, yeah, Kevin Smith, how you doing?" And then I hear his voice, "Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?" Like, and I was like, I froze and I looked back and I'm like, "It's Kevin Smith." And I like hit my friend and I was like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "Didn't you know?" I'm like, "How was I supposed to know?" He was right behind us. And then I just turned around, I'm like, "Oh my God, you're amazing." He goes, "Yeah, thanks." And then he was just there with him and his wife, and I didn't want to be weirder than I already am. So I was just like, so I just turned around, I'm like, "This is so cool. I'm not gonna take a picture because that'd be weird." But I have a
I bet he would have
witness.
done it.
I bet he would have too. And I kind of regret not being like real weird about it, being like, "Can I just take a weird selfie with you in the background, please?" And I should have. I just didn't want to freak him out. But like,
And he'd do that thing
I
where he does
regret
his
it.
eyes really wide, like that
It'd
face
be
he
so
makes.
cool. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We digress, of course, but like podcasting, when I started listening to podcasts, it was around 2013. It was right around the time. Do you remember when they announced Ben Affleck was going to play Batman in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice? And the internet that day just broke in half. I was like, I had a smartphone at that time, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to check out what Kevin Smith has to say. And there was something I saw for his podcast, Fat Man on Batman, which is now called Fat Man Beyond. And I listened to him talk about his thoughts on it. And I was like, this is great. So then I just started listening to that regularly. I started listening to something else from his empire, the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast, featuring Walt Flanagan and Brian Johnson, his acolytes, on the show Comic Book Men that he did with them.
Right.
Also featuring a third guy, Brian Quinn, Q from Impractical Jokers.
Did we meet the guys?
The three of them are just hilarious.
Did we meet the guys from Comic Book Men, or did I meet the guys from Comic Book Men? Were we together when that happened?
No. Did you meet them at one point?
Yeah, I was like at like a or maybe it was one of the conventions in LA. I was at like a Comic-Con or like a Halloween con or something like that. And I can't remember which one, but I remember like it was a really brief kind of meeting. Like they were like just chilling at a booth, and I was like, "Hey, you guys are awesome." And they're like, "Hey, will
Do you
you
remember
meet
who
with
was
me?"
there?
No.
Like which cast members? Because I know Walt Flanagan rarely does shows because he doesn't like flying. Most of the time it's going to be Ming Chen, Mike
Hmm.
Zapsik, occasionally Brian Johnson, the man of the beautiful beard.
With the beard.
Um, I've met them. I've met Ming Chen twice. I met Ming and Mike at the Motor City Comic Con in 2016.
Hmm.
Um, and they were just great guys, great to talk to. Then 2019 at the Grand Rapids Comic Con, me and my girlfriend Katie went, and just Ming was there. But Katie, like, she had to go to the bathroom when I went up to talk to him. She's like, "I'll be right back." And she was gone for maybe 10 minutes, and she came back and she said she walked up and she's like, "It's like you were just talking to an old friend." And that's just how me and Ming are. Like, it's not like he necessarily remembered me,
Amazing.
but like I mentioned some things, like I mentioned listening to the podcast, and we talked about Michigan and Ann Arbor because he used to go to U of M and I used to live in Ann Arbor.
There you go.
Um, so it is like we're old pals. And I brought up stuff from the podcast and he would tell the stories, and I introduced him to Katie, and I mean he's just a great guy, and I always love anytime I could run into him.
Yeah, definitely. The con that you
So
went without me, whatever, it's fine.
I'm sorry. So I'm trying to think of what else, and I listen to various podcasts for various subjects. I enjoy listening to them when I'm doing stuff around the house on my,
Yeah,
headphones, if
definitely.
I'm
What
doing
they're there for.
dishes, if I'm outside shoveling snow. Sometimes I'll listen to them while I'm working. If I do something off the phone, I'll put that on.
Yeah.
So podcasts are just great. And I've mentioned over the years, I've mentioned to my girlfriend Katie, I feel like you and I have talked about it at times where we're
Which
just like,
one?
we should do a podcast. And then we're just like, yeah. And then it
Yeah.
just stops.
And then
Like
it
we
just
never
stops.
follow up. Yeah.
No, no. It clicked in my mind. Finally, it just like, and I'm like, this is what we have to do. Yeah.
Yes.
And then
Well,
it feels right and it feels good.
the
And
time is right.
the time is now.
And the thing too, with our job, I've gotten the same comments on my voice. They're like, you sound like you could be on the radio. And I'll always make a joke like, oh, I guess I'm in the wrong business. And then it's
Well,
like, yeah, let me put this voice to use along with what's up here and
a
what's
lot of the
here.
times, a lot of the times, the compliments I get is creepy old men trying to get me to marry them. So that's the difference between men and women.
I usually get like, it's like 75% men, 25% women, but they're not being creepy. So yeah, I don't get that.
I get marriage proposals like multiple times, at
How
least once a
flattering.
month. Sure. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll delve into that just briefly. Like you and I met at work in
Yes.
2015. That's how we came to know each other.
Has it been
Um,
6 years?
how is that possible?
Right? That's, oh my God.
That went by really fast. Some of you may have noticed that the lovely Xana here has a smidge of an accent.
Oh
If we want
no.
to place it, it's
Oh no.
Californian. So what ended up happening? We worked together for about 6 months, and then you decided you had to go back to the land of California,
I
whence you had
did.
come from, and
From whence I hail.
you were there about 3 years, right?
I was there for about 3 years. Yeah. There's a lot of things that happened. There's a lot of life that happened. It was like, and then I found myself in a situation where I had to find a place to live and nowhere would take my cat. I was like, well, screw this. I'm going to go back to Michigan because I couldn't find a place that would take me and my cat. So I moved across the country again. And here I have stayed since.
And yes, if you've noticed my own accent, which has been pointed out to me at times by people at work on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
I had one agent. I can't remember if I told you this story. For our listeners, it's going to be brand new, of course.
Right.
I had an agent who he was from somewhere down south, but he used to live in Michigan. And he told me, he's like, I could tell you're from Michigan. Not only that, I could tell you grew up on the east side of the state. And I was like, you're right. Yeah, I grew up not far from the Detroit area. Um, so accents are amazing. My girlfriend Katie, her sister Holly lives in Colorado. She grew up in Michigan, but she's been in Colorado for a few years now. She's like, whenever I hear Jason, his voice is so Midwestern. And I was like, yeah, I know. So yes, I've lived in Michigan my entire life. I'm 41 years old.
Yeah.
Xana has lived here for a few years,
Few years.
off and on, but she's back now. She loves it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I think such a funny thing from our friendship is that you would send me the SNL skits of the
Yes.
Californians.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? And I'm like,
What are you doing
and
here?
then and then that's that's so funny. And then I would send him like the Man I Walk Minute guy. He's so funny. Midwestern accent guy. He's hilarious, and I just send you all of his videos. So we just kind of tease each other about our different accents. Because I guess I sound
Yes.
like a valley girl sometimes, but I grew up in the valley, so that might be why it is. Like, duh.
The Valley, which is also home to fictional characters, Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, who founded Eagle Fang Karate in Cobra Kai.
For those of you who are just listening, my friend Jason has a Cobra Kai t-shirt on, and that's what he's pointing to.
Oh, that's right.
It's
I
red with an
forget.
eagle. I'm sorry, what does it
Eagle with
say?
fangs, which is
Eagle
not
with fangs.
scientifically accurate, but it looks
Mhm.
sweet. Yes, I do forget some of our people are listening and not viewing because we are doing this kind of simulcast, like
Yes.
video and podcast. You can check out both, whatever you enjoy, whatever your preferences. But
Yeah,
yes,
like and
if
subscribe.
you are watching, right? If you are watching, I will be wearing some kind of nerd related shirt. T-shirts are one of my many passions. I have at this point, oh man, maybe around 130 really sweet T-shirts, not just nerd stuff,
Sweet.
music stuff.
You're like your own hot topic.
I basically could open my own store, and I told my girlfriend the other day, I was like, hot topic. Funny you mentioned it. They had a flash sale where everything was 30% off. And I told Katie, I was like, I was going to buy 5 T-shirts, and then I whittled it down to 2. And then I didn't buy anything. And I was like, aren't you proud of me? And she's like, yes, I'm proud of you. She's like, if you keep buying T-shirts, you'll never be able to wear them all. And then I told another friend about this recently. Right. It's like, are you threatening me? I told another friend recently, and they're like, you could get away with wearing a different shirt every day of the year. And like, you never have to do laundry hardly ever. And I'm like, right.
Yeah, but then at the end of the year, that's a lot of laundry to do.
I'll be doing laundry for a week.
It's just T-shirts.
That's it.
Oh,
goodness. They're so great.
It's so great. But I still need to watch Cobra Kai, the television show, because my Netflix just won't open it. I don't know how to open it. I rewatched all of the movies, the Karate Kid movies, so I can watch Cobra Kai, and it will not open for me, and it drives me bonkers. My friend,
have you tried it recently?
Wyatt, tell me what's wrong with your Netflix, because I use my friend Wyatt's Netflix, so that was right to Wyatt.
Yeah, Wyatt, look into that further. She needs to see this. Wyatt, if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. I don't even know if you'd be into it. I just want to promote the show to everybody on the planet.
Gotta watch it.
It's my new favorite show. Exactly, along with WandaVision, which I haven't seen the new episode, which came out yesterday.
I haven't seen it either. Why didn't we watch it before we got onto our nerd podcast? I was going to watch it last night, but then I was researching, doing other things last night, and I was like, oh, la, 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 la. I forgot that it was Friday night and WandaVision. I'm
Do you
so
know,
excited about that. Did you see that they're also bringing out the Winter Soldier TV show with not
I heard
Hawkeye,
something
what's the other
about
one?
that. Falcon.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, there's next month I think Disney Plus is coming out with the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And you know me, I love the MCU. It's one of my favorite things in the whole wide world is to follow the MCU. But, I'm coming at it as a person who, just likes the movie or just have seen the movie or the TV shows. But I know you, Jason, how many comic books do you own? Isn't that a shame thing? You say this number proudly, my friend.
No, I don't know the number, and I should. I need to inventory these things. I just kept getting more and more and having less and less time as I became an adult.
Yeah, you need
Like
to
working full
catalog that.
time. Yeah. It's insane. I think I've estimated there's about 200 comics per box times 30 boxes roughly.
Wow.
So math, what is that, 6,000
900?
maybe?
Oh,
Ooh, I don't
it's
know. I'm
like
not good at math.
900 versus 6,000. I don't
I
know.
know. I haven't had 900 since the 90s.
Oh
Here's the
my
thing
goodness.
about my comic book collection. I've been
Math isn't
collecting.
for me.
It's okay. I've been collecting since 1988, since the fall of 88. And in fact, though, my first comics I got, I think, in 1987, but I didn't start collecting regularly until 88.
You want me
Now,
to?
I could do this math. That was 33 years ago. So it's
I
been a
wasn't
long
born
time.
yet.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, that's right. You're younger. We
I
are
was
almost
born
10
in
years different
89.
in age.
We're almost exactly 10 years apart because you were born in 79.
That's right.
Yeah, and I was 89. Oh my gosh. I wasn't born yet.
89 was a good year for nerddom.
Yeah.
Batman 1989
I
was
came
the
into the world.
biggest was the biggest thing. This is true. The biggest thing for any nerd who was around then, especially for a 9-year-old nerd. It was so great.
I, I do love Batman. Batman used to be one of my favorite like comic book heroes. I loved his backstory and it just touched my gothic little heart.
Now, if you're listening, viewers, I'm showing my Batman tattoo.
He does.
Or if
He
you're
has
listening,
the
listeners,
the bat logo tattooed to his arm there. It's great. But then I grew up and I met Iron Man. I was like, okay, so this is Batman, but like funnier.
that's a good comparison. It's true.
And then I kind of switched from DC girl to Marvel at that point when I'm like, oh my god. So they have Iron Man, which is like a funnier, sassier Batman, and then also Thor. And I was like, down. Here I am.
He's like Batman if his parents didn't die until he was older. I guess that's one good way of looking at it.
There you go.
See, now that topic
That's a whole
could be a
thing
whole episode. The
on
MCU
its own versus
and what led to the MCU in terms of like how it created the whole. I don't know how to even describe it because it's like it changed the whole nature of live action superheroes. It made them into this worldwide billion-dollar phenomena that really you could trace all the way back to the early 1940s, the beginning of live action superheroes. And I think that is a topic we should discuss next time after this intro episode where we're just getting to know our listeners. We're getting to know us.
It's getting to know all about you.
You may also notice Xana is a talented singer. You've had some theater activity, right, in your past, like a little bit?
Yeah. I was in a classically trained choir. I was a low alto. If you can hear my voice, I am a very low alto. We toured, so that was a lot of fun. And then I went into college and got a degree in theater that I have done nothing with because that's what you do when you have a degree in theater. You go into insurance.
You work in insurance.
No. For a long time, I was a scenic artist for a theater too for about 3 years or so. That was a lot of fun, and I miss that. But yeah, so we're just gonna, oh look, all of that time in my life that I loved and do nothing with now. Ta-da!
But the memories, the memory remains.
That's
Metallica,
right.
1997.
Wow.
See, I'm like the living Google.
You are the living Google. I know. You and my dad, man. If I have questions about anything, oh, don't even. I know that look. He's good. He's giving me a look right now.
I've never met your dad, but I idolize your dad. He's like the coolest old guy. He loves the Doors. I'm a big Doors fan too. Probably not to his level.
No, he has a shrine to Jim Morrison in his home. This is his God, his Messiah, is Jim Morrison. He doesn't do drugs
I can see that
anymore, but Jim Morrison is
is his drug.
It's his drug of choice, yeah. He sends me
so
pictures
great.
of Jim Morrison all the time. Like, why? All right.
Did he ever meet any of the members?
I doubt it. I doubt it. He once took me to the cemetery in LA where Jim Morrison's girlfriend is buried, and then had me take like a whole bunch of pictures. Pamela, exactly. Yeah. So I have a bunch of pictures of me and him at Pamela's gravesite because this is my father.
I think we all need to see these. Perhaps they could be posted to our Instagram at Nerd Initiation.
At Nerd Initiation, go like and follow.
That's right. We just set that up today. Xana's got some fun pictures of like us being nerdy. We'll add some more fun pictures, pictures related to episode topics, all that kind of stuff. It's gonna be great.
It'd be fun. Come join us there. You know, we would love to hear from you too. You can comment, you can like, you can, I don't know, make fun of us. We're nerds. We're used to it. Just kidding. Don't do that.
I mean,
let's all love each other.
Don't be ultra mean, but like if you want to razz us a little, you know,
it's fine. We can take it.
If you want to razz my glasses,
what's wrong with glasses? We're just playing with our glasses because we both are wearing glasses.
I'm wearing what's called the teardrop style. Some people call it the serial killer style. Kind of like 80s-esque.
They're very
My girlfriend's 80s. Not a fan.
Really? Oh, Katie.
I love them.
They're so good. They're very Al Yankovic.
I like that comparison. I don't have the curly hair.
Great. No, I know. But he wears the same glasses. They're so great.
Exactly. And who doesn't like Al Yankovic? That guy is the king of nerds.
He is the king of nerds. He's amazing. And I'm so glad I brought him up. I regret nothing.
White and Nerdy. Remember that song?
Oh, it's so good. White and Nerdy. It's so good. I mean, everything he does is so good.
Fun story. I saw him live in 1997 at the Livingston County Fowlerville Fair. I grew up in a small town called Fowlerville. And the funny story is Al was at the show and he was joking around about playing in Fowlerville. He's like, this was his quote. He's like, so I asked my agent before the tour, I was like, could you get me as close to Fowlerville as possible? And my agent was like, no, I could get you Fowlerville. And I said, no way, really? It was so great. Awesome show, full of costume changes, amazing. Fun audio, video, like visual stuff, like him interviewing celebrities and asking them awkward questions. I just had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
That sounds amazing. I want to go to a Weird Al Yankovic concert so bad.
We should go sometime back when when the world's normal and we could go to shows again.
When we can go outside.
Funny story, one memory just popped into my mind. The last song he did, the encore, was Yoda. which was him parodying the Kinks' Lola. And I
Mhm.
remember looking over, this was like a bunch of people had moved to the front of the stage. And I saw some guys I went to high school with. They were in like the front row, were like waving at each other. I moved really close in. I look over a few rows back and somebody's holding up like a latex Yoda mask. Like they had brought that in anticipation of that song. And
Just
Weird
in
Al looked,
case.
he looked down and pointed and he's like, that's great. It was awesome.
That's amazing. I love I love Yoda. I have a baby Yoda right over there. I love the Mandalorian. Anything that's
You
like
watch Mandalorian? I
I
don't know if we've
do.
talked about that much. Yeah.
Do you watch Mandalorian?
I haven't seen it yet.
Do you need my Disney Plus to get in to watch Mandalorian?
I no, I have Disney Plus. The thing about that show is it dropped into the world during a time when I was just excessively busy and
Mm,
didn't have time for it. Like
I
I was
recommend it.
I was getting serious with my girlfriend. Then we decided, hey, let's buy a house and move. And then
It's
we
true.
decided, oh, the pandemic's happening. We have to get settled in. I just didn't have a ton of time for TV, but I'm catching up more recently.
Yeah.
That's what
What
led to me watching Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai and
Which
WandaVision.
yes, WandaVision. I was going to say when we were talking about that earlier,
Amazing. We were.
it's like not only is it good, but it's made Friday nights something to be excited about again because it's almost
When you
like we have appointment TV again, where like you have to watch something at a certain time, and it gives you something to look forward to all week.
right, it's
This,
amazing. I get so excited when I remember that. I'm like, oh my God, I can watch WandaVision. It doesn't help that I forgot that it was not Friday or that it was Friday yesterday because you texted me this morning
you
and
thought it was
talking.
Friday today.
I thought it was Friday today because you texted me about work and I was like, oh my God, am I late to work? And then done Saturday.
See, if you watch WandaVision, you know what day it is.
I
To me,
know.
it's like it's made Fridays fun again, not since the days of TGIF on ABC Friday
Mhm.
nights, where I would tune in and watch Urkel and Full House and Perfect Strangers. Here's a show that not a lot of people remember. Just the 10 of Us was
Mm-mm.
on TGIF back in the day. Have you heard of that ever?
Mm-mm. I can't say
Let
that
me
I
tell you a
have.
little bit of Let me tell you a little bit about Just the 10 of Us. It was a spin-off of Growing Pains. Do you remember Growing Pains?
I do.
With Kirk Cameron and Alan Thicke, and
Yeah, yeah.
they were this wholesome 80s family. Kirk Cameron's character was Mike Seaver. The first couple, I think first 3 seasons, he was a high school student at Dewey High. He had a teacher who was the gym teacher too, and he was the football coach,
Hmm.
um, Coach Lubbock. They
Yeah.
decided to spin Coach Lubbock off into his own show called Just the 10 of Us about him and his family. And it's called Just the 10 of Us because they had like 8 kids.
Wow.
And some of the girls on that show, his teen daughters to young Jason, I thought they were super hot. I enjoyed the girls very much. The show was funny. Only lasted 2 years. So not a lot of people remember it.
That's all right.
But I
That's
would
right.
I would advise you and all of our listeners and viewers, if you haven't seen Just the 10 of Us, it's out there on YouTube. Check it out.
Go
For
watch
sure.
it. Jason endorses this.
Jason approved, and it's very 80s,
There you
which is
go.
also
Which is
good.
awesome. What we love. But yeah, WandaVision, back to WandaVision. It's been something that, you know, is that we have been bonding over more as well because we love to
Yeah.
share theories and things like this. Natasha was my Black Widow was my favorite Avenger. And then now getting to know the Scarlet Witch, I'm like, she's freaking awesome. I love that. Well, a theory that I agree with is I love that she is like having a mental break and everything's going crazy. And it's just so interesting watching the dynamic of her and her powers and things like this. But I'm having all of my theories from just watching the show. But I mean, you're coming in with different expectation and theories because I'm assuming you've read these comics that, the show is pulling directly from. Like, they think you were
Mhm.
talking about House of M.
House of M, yeah. They're kind of seeding aspects of House of M into it. Also, the storyline with her kids, that goes back to the late 80s. The West Coast Avengers was a series back then. If you haven't heard of that, that's when the Avengers decided, you know, we got a lot of people we could have on the team. Let's have a presence on the West Coast. So it was like Iron Man, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, and Vision, and then other members joined over the years. They were out on the West Coast working out of California. That's when the whole storyline of Vision and Scarlet Witch having children came from. And that's why a lot of people are saying they think the big bad behind it is Mephisto, because the children were created by taking aspects of Mephisto to create their souls.
Right, like pieces of his souls.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, is he a little I've known of Mephisto, because I have not read the comics. He's like the devil. Is that correct? Quote
He's
unquote. I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah, he's basically Marvel's stand-in for the devil. Mephisto being short for Mephistopheles, which is like an old school name for the devil.
Right.
My first experience with him in the comics was 1991's Infinity Gauntlet storyline, which of course the movies drew upon that story in the MCU.
Right.
Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. That all came from the Infinity Gauntlet. Mephisto was hanging out at the time with Thanos and Mistress Death. He was just kind of like somebody for Thanos to bounce his ideas off of, because Mistress Death was, you know, the cool, sexy goth type who was never saying anything, and Thanos was all into her and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was his role in it.
Cool.
But Mephisto's been in a lot of stuff over the years. I want to say he was an antagonist for Silver Surfer in a lot of stories. There is a controversial storyline from the mid 2000s. You're like, ooh, controversy.
I love controversy. Right? Tell me more.
The internet loves controversy, right? We're gonna bring this up.
The internet will love it.
2007.
Yeah.
There was a Spider-Man storyline. Now I'm sure you remember Avengers Civil War, the movie. Or Captain America Civil War, I should say.
Captain America Civil War.
In it.
That's right.
I think of it as an Avengers movie, but it was Cap.
It's the Cap.
That was drawing upon a story from the mid 2000s called the Civil War, where there were factions of heroes against each other because of this superhero registration act that Congress was going to pass, and some were for it, some against it, etc. What ended up happening in that story was Peter Parker publicly admitted he was Spider-Man. Spider-Man like showed his identity to the world. So this led to like everybody going after his family, which was the reason he had a secret identity, you know, to protect his loved ones.
Yeah.
It
like rule number one.
Exactly. It ends up with the Kingpin, his villain, hiring a sniper to shoot Mary Jane, whom he was married to in the comics. But he missed Mary Jane and hit Aunt May, who was in the same room. They were hiding out in a hotel.
That was a roller coaster of emotions right now.
I know. I need to take a breath, right? It was a devastating thing to happen. So Peter's like, he brings Aunt May to the hospital. He calls up Tony Stark, and Tony's like, we're going to get the best doctors to help her out. Like, don't worry, we're going to take care of this. But she's on life support. It's not looking good. Peter reaches out to Mephisto, and he's like, do not do this to me. Do not take this woman from me. I will give you anything you want if you save my aunt. And he's like, Mephisto says, I just want one thing. He's like, I want your marriage.
Right? What? How do you take a marriage? Like,
because that was the thing, aside from his aunt, that was most precious to Peter Parker, was his marriage and relationship with Mary Jane Watson Parker, whom they'd been married for like 20 years in real life. Like 1987, I think, was when they got married in the comics. And time moves a little differently in comics, you know, so it hadn't been that long. But that had been in the stories that had been canon for 2 decades. And there's a behind the scenes thing with it. The Marvel execs were like, we don't want to do married Spider-Man stories anymore. We think it ages the character. Like, it makes him unrelatable to younger people.
Yeah, it's not like a young Tom Holland.
Yeah, what's a way we could get rid of this? We don't want him divorced either because that looks bad. It's like, oh, he's the divorce superhero. So what's better? Oh, let's have him make a deal with the
Deal with the
devil
devil.
because that's good to save his elderly aunt, who God love her, she's his mother figure and a great old lady and makes great breakfasts and whatever.
Sure.
I mean, old people sometimes it's their time to die, and it was in a way that was like really bad and shouldn't have happened. But I mean, this is what he's doing. He's making a deal with the devil. As you could tell, a lot of people on the internet were not happy with that choice, and still aren't, because even 14 years later, in the comics, he's unmarried, and they said he's never been married. They said a lot of those stories still happen, but him and Mary Jane were just living together. They weren't married. They were just a
Scandalous.
living couple.
Is
Right.
it like
So now he's like living with someone before marriage.
right? Teacher. I have a question. Is it like maybe part of like that multiverse that we hear so much about? Like, could it be like in one of the other multiverses he's old and married to Mary Jane? You know,
Yes.
like Captain America went back and had like a different timeline with Peggy. Like it's kind of like that where everything's just all jumbled multiverse. You know, only Doctor Strange and Wanda can visit them. Who knows?
No, that's actually a really good question because that's been addressed in the comics. There is an alternate timeline or Earth where they're still together, and they had a daughter named May, named after Aunt May. She ended up becoming in that universe Spider Girl.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, and then they did another story, and I didn't read a lot of those, but another one where they stayed married. It's called the Renew Your Vows storyline, and they had another daughter. I think her name wasn't May. So I don't know a lot about that one, but yeah, somewhere out there the marriage stayed intact, and I think that's kind of the thing with Marvel and the comics too. Whenever there's a change to the timeline, it creates a different alternate universe, a different Earth. And they're all numbered and designated with different things. Even the MCU has its own Earth number designation. The main Marvel Comics continuity that you can read about is considered Earth 616.
Isn't that our zip code or our area code?
It is, yes.
What?
We live in the real Marvel universe.
Yes, we do.
But yeah, that's the whole thing. And that was a long story just to tell you my experience with Mephisto. And he's been a part of controversial storylines.
Well, he's the devil. He should have controversy.
Yes.
That just makes total sense to me.
That still divides fans to this day. But yeah, it is looking like maybe he's going to be the big bad with WandaVision. We'll see. We have 3 episodes left. My understanding is they're hour-long episodes.
Only 3?
I know, but they're twice as long as the normal ones.
Okay.
So we're getting more bang for our buck.
Good. And
like
then
they're cramming as much Graham into there as possible.
Do you think this is going to be just like a 1-season type of thing because she's going to be in the next Doctor Strange movie, the Multiverse Madness movie?
Yes. No, that's something I was just wondering about the other day, because I feel like the model they're going to do, it won't be like the Netflix Marvel shows where they had like 2 or 3 seasons of like Jessica Jones, Daredevil, The Punisher. Those are all good shows, by the way, if nobody's seen those.
Agent Carter.
Yeah, Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think what they're going to do is they're going to go from one show to another. Like they're going to do Winter Soldier and Falcon next. So I think that's just going to be a thing. That's going to, I think, go into Loki. I think it's just going to be
I'm excited for Loki
thing. I don't know if they're going to do like WandaVision season 2 because it's telling such a
isolated story.
Like I don't know what they do.
Literally in a bubble.
Exactly. By the way, I want to live in that bubble where I could like live my life like old sitcoms.
That's like
when is that going to happen?
That's your dream.
Yes, it is. I'm waiting for VR to get advanced enough where I could just live in an 80s world forever.
Forever. That I mean, it's a pretty awesome concept, and I'm really excited to watch these, the next episodes. I'm so excited to see Loki. I've seen the advert for it, and it looks amazing
Hmm.
because
Speaking of
he's
Loki,
again off to another timeline.
yes, and I love when they do that type of story. Speaking of Loki, I just watched the other day. I can't remember if we talked about this, if you've seen it, Kong Skull Island,
I have seen it.
featuring
I
Loki
rented it.
himself, the actor Tom Hiddleston playing him. Um, Love that
Love
movie.
Tom. It's so
I hadn't
good.
seen it since it came out. I saw it in the theater, and I
Hmm.
picked up the Blu-ray. Oh, so good. I mean, I've just been in a monster movie mode lately. I watched the original King Kong from the 30s a
Oh,
week or two
nice.
ago. Yeah, hadn't seen that in years.
No,
Holds up.
it
Just
does.
fantastic special effects for the time.
Hmm. No, I love those too. I love the old movies, and I love watching them. I mean, unpopular opinion probably, but I love watching movies get rebooted to see what they do with it in the time that it gets made. Like um uh Kong, like Godzilla, like these
Hmm.
kinds of movies. I know other people were like, "Meh, I want original content," which is fine. Original content is amazing, and I love new stories, but I love the nostalgia too of the old stories, but being brought to you in like
Modern
modern fashion.
context. Yeah,
Exactly.
yes.
Hmm.
I like that too.
That's why we're friends.
Exactly. Plus, we have cool glasses.
Plus, we have cool glasses. That's right.
Now, the
Cool
listeners
Glasses
can't
Club.
see them. Xana has glasses too.
I do. I have pink cat eye glasses. I think they frame my face very well. Thank you. And
Yeah.
listeners, if you'd like to see, we are going to be posting this podcast on our YouTube, Initiation. You can come join us there and see my pretty glasses and Jason's nerdy 80s glasses that are amazing.
Yes, your glasses are very you, as I
Thanks.
think mine are very me. And yeah, folks, be a part of the Nerd Initiative. Nerd Initiation.
Nerd Initiation. It's
It's
so
on it's on Instagram, YouTube.
anywhere you can
This
find
will be
podcasts.
available. Yeah, exactly. On all your favorite mediums for that.
Hmm.
It's going to be really cool.
It's gonna be really cool. I'm so excited, and I hope you can all join us. I hope you liked this little getting to know you with us. And I should probably stop singing, but fight me. um, but we're gonna have so much more content later. Nerd things are coming. We have discussions on individual topics and themes per episode. This one just happens to be a getting to know you, which is amazing because I love getting to know people sometimes. Right. But no, this has been a great podcast, or this has been a great time with you talking. And I feel like we've gotten into our nerddom pretty well. How do you feel about that? Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Indeed, I would. Yes.
Yes.
I have enjoyed our conversation, and it's really cool because we talk every day, but
We
normally
do.
it's like through text, and it's normally about work stuff and
I
like
know.
complaining about work. Um, Not that our company and job is bad, because we love it, of course, and it, keeps us making a living, being productive, doing all that
Yeah,
stuff. And we get to work from home, which is pretty cool.
which is pretty
Um,
cool.
the thing that sucks about that though is I don't get to see you every day and our other
No.
friends in the office. So this is a way for us to like see each other, each week, a few times a week, and have that interaction and talk about stuff we love. And like the
Yeah.
main the main gist of this podcast is it's going to be you asking me about stuff that you're interested in, but that you're not as knowledgeable
Mhm.
about. I'm going to talk to you about it. But
Love it.
sometimes, folks, we're going to flip the script because there's stuff Xana knows that I don't know a lot about. I know that's hard to believe. Xana
Hey.
knows a lot of cool stuff.
Hey.
Cosplay. No, that wasn't a dig at you at all. You know a lot of stuff. That was me like saying, I know you all think I know everything. I don't.
No,
I know a lot.
we each have our own expertise. You are the man of comics, the man of 80s, the man of music. I am the woman of cosplay, the woman of Harry Potter.
Yes,
Basically, Star Wars is another one of
theater.
my. Sure, theater.
We're pretty 50-50 on the Star Wars. I mean, I
I
think
think
we're both
so.
like equal fans. And that's something where,
Except I watched Mandalorian.
all right. So 51-49, fine. And you mentioned music. I do love music.
Hmm.
You might notice on the walls over here, I got posters. This is my living room in the basement in the home I share with my girlfriend. The living room is music themed. Back that away, there's a door, and you might see a Superman poster or two on it. That's where the other nerd stuff is. Someday we might go in there and you can take a peek if you're watching.
Nirvana. Well, Jason, that's me and you. And I have one question for you.
Fire away.
Am I a nerd now?
Not quite yet, young Kryptonian, but soon. You just keep asking questions and I'll keep teaching.
Sounds good. Well, everybody, until next time, nerd your heart out.
Nerd your heart out.
That's right. Bye, guys.
Ooh.